I signed a token approval in a hurry once for a swap worth about $40. 14 months later, I went back through that wallet and the approval was still sitting there, still live, still set to unlimited on a contract whose website no longer loaded. Nothing had happened. That is the normal state for a stale approval right up until the day it stops being. I run mobile proxy lines and a rack of Android phones as a business, so most of my week goes on blast radius. When a thing fails, how far does the failure reach? I farm airdrops with the same head on. Dozens of wallets, a dull routine, nothing clever in it, and the habit that separates losing a wallet from losing everything has nothing to do with picking the right project. It is which wallet was connected to the thing that went wrong. Separate by purpose or none of the rest matters. A wallet holding anything you would be upset to lose should never connect to a website. Not to check a balance, not to claim something, not once. That sounds extreme until you look at how funds actually leave a wallet. Most of the time, nobody stole a key. Somebody was handed permission months earlier by the owner in about 4 seconds. A wallet that has never signed anything has no permissions on it. There is nothing sitting there to abuse. That is the entire argument, and it does not get more sophisticated than that. So the shape is one address that only receives and sends by hand and connects to nothing. Separate addresses that do the farming and the clicking and the daily work, and a fresh one for anything you have not dealt with before. The last tier is the one people skip, and it is free. Making a new address inside a wallet you already have takes a few seconds and costs nothing until you fund it. There is a real trade-off, and I will say it out loud. A brand new address carries no history, and history is often the thing being counted. So the fresh address is for poking at something you do not trust yet, not for the identity you are actually building over months. Those are two separate jobs. People collapse them into one wallet constantly because switching accounts is annoying and the risk is invisible. Approvals are the part nobody watches. When you swap a token on an exchange interface, you do not hand the contract your tokens. You hand it permission to take them. That permission is its own transaction. It is the one you signed just before the swap, while treating it as paperwork. Most interfaces ask for an unlimited amount by default, because then you never sign it again and every later trade is cheaper. That default is why an active wallet quietly builds up a long list of live permissions. The permission does not expire. There is no term on it. It has nothing to do with the size of the trade you actually made. It survives you closing the tab, deleting the bookmark, and forgetting the project ever existed. So the question worth asking is whether that contract still deserves standing permission over your tokens every day from now on, including after the team moves on, including if its admin keys end up on somebody's old laptop, including if it was built to be upgraded and gets pointed somewhere new. You granted an address, not a promise. Addresses carry on working long after the people behind them stop paying attention. Revoking is a transaction of its own. You set the allowance back to zero and you pay gas to do it, on a cheap chain that is pennies. On Ethereum mainnet, at a bad hour, it can cost more than the tokens the approval covers, which is genuinely irritating and is the main reason people put it off. So make it maintenance. Same slot as any other dull monthly job. Open an approval checker, go address by address, clear anything you have not used this week. What the checker shows you is a spender address, a token, and an amount. The spender is a contract, and a contract is code with an owner somewhere. You are not reading a list of companies you trust. You are reading a list of programs that can move your money. Approvals are per token, per spender, per chain. One wallet used across 6 chains has 6 separate lists, and the tool you are looking at has to actually be reading the chain you are asking about. People clean up Ethereum, feel organized, and leave 4 other chains untouched. The signature you cannot read, this is the one that has changed fastest, and the one I see catching otherwise careful people. A transaction costs gas and lands in your history where you can find it later. A signature costs nothing, leaves no record you will ever go looking at, and in most wallets it appears as a box you close on the way to something else, and the signature can grant a permission all by itself. Permit style signing exists so that approving a token can happen without its own on-chain transactions. A genuine feature, and it saves everybody money. It also means a permission can now be created by you clicking sign on a message. So when a page asks you to sign to log in, or sign to verify ownership, or sign to continue, and the wallet shows you a wall of hex, that is a blank check with the amount already filled in. You just cannot read the handwriting. The rule is short. If your wallet cannot turn it into a sentence you understand, do not sign it. No exception for being in a hurry. Being in a hurry is precisely when these arrive. The collectible version of this is the permission that covers an entire collection rather than one item. Same mechanism, much wider reach, and it usually gets granted while listing something on a marketplace, which feels like admin rather than a decision. The seed phrase rules, which are absolute, it goes on paper. It does not go in a photo. Photos sync. The account they sync to is guarded by a password and a code sent to a phone number, and a phone number is a far softer target than a wallet ever was. I keep mine out of a password manager too, though that one is a defensible disagreement, and plenty of careful people go the other way. I would rather the two systems fail separately. It never gets typed into anything except the wallet application itself, being restored deliberately by you. Not a website, not a form, not a chat window, not a support agent's tool, not a page telling you your wallet needs to be validated, synced, migrated, or upgraded before you can claim. There is no legitimate use for that phrase by anybody else. The developers cannot do anything on your behalf with it. Support cannot. The phrase is the wallet, and handing it over transfers the wallet. That is the whole of what the act does, which gives you one rule you can still apply while exhausted. Every single person who asks for your seed phrase is an attacker. Everyone. No exceptions, no circumstances, no version of that sentence that comes out false. Write it twice and keep the copies in two places, because the failure I have watched most often has nothing to do with attackers. A house move, a leak, somebody tidying up who did not know what the card was. And test the restore once. Take a wallet with nothing in it, wipe it, put the phrase back in, and check the same address comes out the other side. A backup you have never tested is a belief. What a hardware wallet actually buys you. It solves one problem and it solves it properly. The key is generated inside the device and never leaves it. Transactions go in, signatures come out. The key stays where it is. So if your computer is fully owned, a keylogger running, the clipboard being swapped under you, a browser extension that updated itself into something else overnight, the attacker still cannot pull the key out. There is nothing on the machine to take. That is a large problem to have removed, because a compromised machine is where most of this starts. Now the part that is not printed on the box. The hardware wallet will happily sign a malicious transaction. Connect it to a phishing page, press confirm on the device, and the device has done its job perfectly. The button press is the authorization. The hardware has no opinion about where the funds went. It does not fix blind signing either. Those screens are tiny. A complicated transaction gets squeezed into a summary that tells you very little, and pressing confirm on a truncated summary is the same leap of faith it would have been in a browser tab. It does not protect the phrase, which is still on paper somewhere and is still the entire wallet. And it does nothing at all if you bought it used or from a marketplace listing instead of the manufacturer. A device that arrives with a recovery phrase already written on a card in the box is a mailbox for whoever printed it. The habits that cost nothing. Never do a first-time interaction under time pressure. Claim windows, a countdown, a group chat saying it is live right now. Fake claim pages go up at the same moment the real ones do, and they buy ads, because that is the hour when people click without reading. Bookmark the real address of anything you use and reach it only through the bookmark. Search results and links pasted into chat are the delivery mechanism for most of this. When an address is new to you, send a small amount first and wait for it to land before you send the rest. Keep a plain list of which of your addresses does what. Sounds trivial. It is the thing that stops a tired person pasting the wrong one. And slow down on the last screen. The wallet is showing you the contract, the token, and the amount for a reason. Reading it takes 3 seconds. The thing I got wrong. I had a wallet I called Code for about 2 years. It had been connected to a site exactly once, early on, to claim something small. I remember doing it and telling myself it was a one-off. What I did not think about was what that single connection left behind. It left a live approval sitting on the wallet I had decided was the untouchable one. It sat there for roughly a year while I carried on describing that wallet as offline. I found it because I eventually ran an approval check across every address I owned instead of only the ones I assumed were dirty. The whole sweep took about 20 minutes. I had been putting it off for a year because in my head it was an afternoon. Nothing came of it. I got lucky, and luck is not a control. The lesson was not really about approvals. I had a label in my head that had stopped matching the behavior, and the label kept winning. Code describes what a wallet has done. It is a measurement, and I had been using it as a name, the honest limit. None of this gets anything back. Once a transaction confirms, that is the end of the process. No reversal, no chargeback, nobody to escalate to, and for an individual, there is no realistic recovery path. You can trace where it went, and tracing is real work that real people do. It is still a long way from getting it back. So every habit here is worth exactly what it prevents, and nothing more. It stays boring and unrewarding right up until the one day it turns out to have been the only thing that mattered. One more that follows straight on from that. Anybody who contacts you after a loss offering to recover the funds is the second theft. The first one took the wallet. This one takes whatever is left while you are still panicking. Full written guides and tested toolpicks are at airdropfarming.org. Subscribe for more on wallet security and airdrop farming done properly.